make sure I had both cameras and they both have good angles. If you notice you're facing a different side today, just so we can do a little bit of yoga flows with today's video. I'm gonna let some people jump on and then I'll get started. So how is everybody's morning? Is everybody feeling good today? You know, was the new energies that we have going on, the full moon, was it good to you? You know, was it not so good for you? Feel free to tell me. I understand. Moons are a doozy over here, so. All right, let's get started. Let's talk about Vinyasa Yoga. So, as you may have heard in the previous live, there are so many different various styles of yoga that can be taught. There's Hatha, there's Yin, there's Vinyasa, there's Power, so many different varieties and styles, and it's hard for a person who typically may not be familiar with yoga to know where to start or which one suits them. As we discussed in the previous video, only about 2% of yoga is actual asana. And so when you consider that on the vast scope of things, that means that it's still pretty big and expansive, especially just to be 2%. So Vinyasa Yoga is the yoga of flow. Okay, it is to place the body with intention, is how they describe Vinyasa Yoga. Now, they break down the Sanskrit in different ways, and I will be honest, I don't feel that I know Sanskrit enough to say this is the literal translation. Okay, I do know that Vi is to intentionally place. Okay. And then I think Nyasa is like with flow, like with breath. So it's something similar along those lines. But anyhow, Vinyasa Yoga is what most people are familiar with. Most people are familiar with Vinyasa Yoga when they see people doing yoga or they come to a yoga class. Vinyasa is what they typically expect, okay? That is where you see things that flow with the breath. It is done with movement, and it's very, it's freely structured, okay? And I say that because there's Ashtanga, which is extremely structured. You must flow from one pose to the next, and the next pose is already set before you in Ashtanga. That is not the case in Vinyasa. Vinyasa encourages you to flow along with your breath and movement, and you place your body in a certain position or in a certain pose based on how the breath is flowing. All right. And Vinyasa can be fast paced. And so a lot of times people mistake power yoga for Vinyasa yoga, but that's not the case. Power yoga is more focused on the physical body, fitness, you know, gaining, losing weight, trimming, slimming down, making the body stronger and things like that. But Vinyasa does that, but doesn't put the emphasis on the physical. The physical emphasis is more on following the breath, allowing it to flow through the body, okay? Now, when you go to a Vinyasa yoga class, you can pretty much bet that sun salutations will be involved, okay? That is the core structure of a Vinyasa class. They're gonna warm you up, bring you into sun salutations, flow you through, bring you to a peak pose, ground you back down, Savasana. Okay, so that is a standard Vinyasa class. Now today, when we do the practice, I'm going to actually teach you Sun Salutation A. Okay, so that's what we're actually going to do today when we're done talking about, you know, the yoga itself. Vinyasa Yoga, as I said, is most commonly taught. If you see a teacher and she has a 200-hour RYT or a CYT, 9 out of 10 it's Vinyasa. Very rarely do yoga instructors start with something else unless they were called to something else, or they're familiar with yoga like growing up. Okay, for me, I was more drawn to Kundalini yoga, but all the Kundalini programs were 300 hours with a 200-hour requirement. So most often the requirement for us as instructors is that we can teach you Vinyasa. So without a doubt, Vinyasa is the most commonly taught yoga. Maybe second only to Bikram, the hot yoga. Hot yoga is very popular. Those two are kind of like synonymous, and I call it your basic B yoga, and I know that's not right, but it's just because everybody knows that yoga. And so those are going to be your two most common, but Vinyasa is the one that's more commonly practiced. Now, I will take a side moment to note, and I'm going to discuss this a little bit in this video, simply because I am not certified in Bikram yoga, but I want you to know the difference with hot yoga. Hot yoga is enjoyable, okay? It is a form of vinyasa in a sense because, hi, Sissy. I love that vinyasa allows you to be so creative, but when you put that in a hot environment, if you are not properly warmed up and you are not properly brought into the right place, it is easy to hurt yourself in hot yoga, okay? So if you are a person who has joint issues or issues with bones, hot yoga may not necessarily be for you because you're more likely to pull a muscle or to injure or dislocate a joint because everything is so hot and you think it's stretched out, you think it's warmed up, and it's not, and you pull something. And so hot yoga is very different from vinyasa. Hot yoga is not really good for people with high blood pressure. Simply think about the fact that your body temperature is already elevated. And so because your body temperature stays elevated and you're in that place of heat, it can cause your blood pressure to spike fast and more rapidly than you're prepared for. And them to be able to bring that back down in such a short manner of time that you'll need to prevent any heart issues, it's just not worth the risk, in my opinion. Now, again, please seek your doctor's medical advice for anything like that. However, in my opinion as a yoga instructor, I would not recommend hot yoga for people with high blood pressure, simply because of the elevated risk of heat. People have literally passed out in those classes, no matter how much water you have. And that's the thing. Let's talk about that for just a second. When you bring yoga to your water class, don't chug it. Do not chug it. Tips for doing yoga, there's two of them. Number one, do not eat heavy. It is fun, sis, and it's something you can do, but it makes you feel dizzy. Yes, Nancy, that's absolutely right. And so a lot of times that it's that blood pressure coming up, and so you will feel dizzy, you'll feel lightheaded, and sometimes you can faint. And so, that is a very valid point, and that is what most people say, is that it makes them feel a little dizzy and lightheaded. And so what you can do in these classes is, number one, don't eat heavy before you go in, okay? Don't eat heavy in a yoga class because you got to remember you're inverting your body. And you are literally pulling up on the diaphragm, which is inadvertently going to pull up on the intestines and the stomach. So anything you ate, you're now in here like, squeezing it back up your throat. And you're like a little mama bird trying to regurgitate, but there's no babies, only a yoga mat. You don't want to do that, okay? Now, the other thing is that you want to sip water. Okay, and that's really with any workout. And it's a good rule in general, period, when you're hot or tired. A lot of people are quick to put something up and, oh my gosh, I'm dehydrated. Look. Do not do that, okay? You will make yourself sick, and if your water is too cold, especially if you're doing that, I have very, very low blood pressure. Maybe it raises it. It does. That's exactly what it is. And it's not necessarily that it gets your blood pressure really high, Nancy. It's just that it takes it above its level really fast. Like you said, it's the abruptness of it all, and it's above where it typically is. And I love yoga. Is amazing. It is fantastic. So many different styles. And Nancy, if you would tell me in the comments, what is your favorite style of yoga? Like, what is your definite favorite style of yoga? Because everybody has one. Mine is Kundalini. I'll be honest. I'm a Kundalini baby. I like to get Kundalini wasted. That's me. But yeah. So don't chug your water. Just take gentle sips of it. I like to swirl around my mouth a little bit so that way you're moistening the insides of the mouth. It allows the breath to cool. It also hydrates you better. A lot of dehydration starts here inside the mouth, and you'll notice like the saliva production will start to dry up. That's why you want to swish that water around, and believe it or not, that'll rehydrate your body better than guzzling your drink. All right. So if it's no good, and a little water for it. Yeah, that's definitely. So hot yoga, again, is like I said, is very similar. Now, there's a big difference too as well with hatha yoga, okay? And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to throw these in here. Vinyasa and sometimes practicing challenge poses with the breath. Yes, all right, well, today is your jam. Today is for you, Miss Nancy. This is for you. And so Hatha yoga is very similar to vinyasa. And if you are a beginner yogi and you've never done yoga before, Hatha is a great place to start, simply because it is vinyasa, but with more focused attention. Okay, vinyasa is, I'm sorry, my cat is very needy today. I don't know what her deal is, so this is what we're doing. I'm sorry. This is Athena. Say hi, Athena. Yes, we love the kitty. It's my little Oreo house panther. So, Hatha yoga is a more slowed down. They're more focused on the accurateness and the alignment. So learning how to do a pose or learning how to properly position yourself, it's easier in Hatha. In Vinyasa, you're kind of flowing. So however your body moves, even if it's out of alignment, it's going to move that to stretch it and go with the breath. Whereas in Hatha, you're placing in a certain way regardless, and you're more controlling of the breath, and it's more, what's the word that I want to use? It's not precise. Oh, fiddlesticks. My vocabulary is ridiculous, and I've lost the word. But anyhow, that is the big difference. Hatha is done at a slower pace than Vinyasa. Like I said, Vinyasa goes a little bit fast, so it's mistaken for power yoga, but Vinyasa is definitely faster than Hatha, for sure. However, they are very similar. They overlap. The poses overlap. Now, what you will notice across all styles of yoga is that one pose may be called something different in each style. For example, a frog pose in Kundalini yoga is nothing like a frog pose in Vinyasa. So for reference, I'm going to go ahead and shift you to the mat now, and we're going to do some examples here. We're going to get some yoga going today. So welcome to my living room. All right, I have to move both audiences here. Let's make sure you can see the whole mat. No, you cannot. Instagram, you are being shorted. There we are. Okay, so if we are to do, now bear with me, I gotta take my socks off. I don't yoga in socks well. All right, so if we are to do a frog pose in Kundalini yoga, they're literally, frog pose is like this, okay? Now Kundalini frogs you're gonna do, and they come up like this, all right? Now we'll go over this more in the Kundalini edition, but that is a Kundalini frog pose. However, for Vinyasa, frog pose is more like child's pose. So it's more of getting down here, opening up the knees, springing out like an actual frog, and coming down like such. Now this is great if you have any hip, any issues within your hips and how they sit. I personally am a dynamic yogi, so I tend to do this number here a lot. I'll come around and kind of just gently ease into the pose. You can also go forward and backwards, all right? And then you slowly open up over time. Now your feet, you want your feet out this way, if that helps. I don't know if you can see. So your feet are kind of this, all right? And you're laying them down this way. All right, so now you've become a frog in Vinyasa, all right? Now, as I said, when you take any Vinyasa class, you will start with warm-ups. That means they're going to loosen up your hips a little bit. They're going to twist you around here. They're going to go ahead and have you stretch the arms up and down, okay? Now, the general rule when it comes to taking Vinyasa, and this is so important, especially for yogis who have never stepped foot in a yoga class that is professionally taught, okay? My big gripe with Instagram yoga is that, not Instagram yoga, I'm sorry, YouTube yoga, is the fact that, you know, you're watching a recording, but nobody's guiding you through the proper steps because we can't see you to make the adjustments. And one of the things that I have most commonly noticed is that the breathing is done a little backwards because we're not natural breathers. So I'm actually going to take a minute. I'm going to come a little bit closer so I can teach proper breathing, okay? Now, like Miss Nancy said, the breath with Vinyasa is amazing, okay? But it's important to know how to breathe properly. So I want you to come into a nice, comfortable seat. If this is comfortable for you, if not, feel free to sit in rock pose. Now again, for Kundalini Yoga, this is rock pose. However, it is Hero's pose in Vinyasa. So here we go. Let me use the proper terms. I'm sorry. So you can come into rock pose as well, all right? I want you to breathe, inhale, and roll your shoulders up and back. It doesn't matter how your belly flows just now, because I want to get your shoulders back so your diaphragms and chest are fully open. Now I want you to take your your left hand, place that across your heart center, and take your right hand and place it across your belly. Now as you breathe in, I want you to expand the belly. So that means filling it up, making those fingers spread. And then as you exhale, I want you to pull back and up, okay? And let's do that a couple of times just to sync the breath. So we're inhaling and exhaling. Inhaling and exhaling. One more time, let's inhale and exhale. You see how much fuller that breath may be than when you're typically breathing? Now, if you are ever stressed or you find yourself getting angry or frustrated, you may notice that that's flip-flop. Your breathing is not working that way. You're taking short and shallow breaths. And so what you can do, bring yourself mindfully in the moment, place your hands over your heart and your stomach center, and then recalibrate the breathing. Make it low and slow is what I call it. It's kind of like I call it crock pot breathing, okay? Because you want to cook it low and slow to make sure you're nice and tender. So you're all right. Now, once you have that, realize that each movement in Vinyasa is synchronized with the breath. So typically, if you are reaching up, you're inhaling. If you're reaching down, you're exhaling. You're reaching forward, you're inhaling. If you are reclining back, you're exhaling. Now that is pretty standard. There are a few exceptions, but not enough to note, okay? For the most part, this will legitimately be how you breathe. Now, I want you to take notice of this. Now, I'm gonna teach you Sun Salutation A, which, as I told you earlier in the video, that is the foundation for a Vinyasa class. But I'm going to teach you in a Hatha style because I want you to learn how to accurately get into each position. And I'm going to share with you a few tips of where home yogis make mistakes. And I say this as a person who only took yoga in her house for over a decade. Like, it was just me, and a lot of it, I wasn't even watching somebody on TV. I was just doing it, and I didn't really have a thing with it. It just felt good. And so now I understand different alignments better, and these are little things that really, like, it elevated my practice, okay? So let's get started. First, let's go back here. First, let me get a sip of my tea. If you guys don't know, I'm Linus, by the way. I still have a thumb in a blanket, and I would cry if my cat, when she lays on it. All right, so as always, with Vinyasa, they're gonna tell you to come to the top of your mat. All right, I'm gonna actually come to the back of my mat just because it's better for you all to be able to see. All right, you want the feet about hip width apart, facing forward. So when they say square your mat in a yoga class, they mean to point your toes towards the short ends of the mat. Hold on. I do always have a blanket, quit snitching on me. Oh my goodness. And so from here, I want you to understand that you have a moment to be present. Now, Sun Salutation A does not start with mountain pose, but I encourage mountain pose, just so you can check your alignment within your body. So go ahead, take a deep breath in, roll the shoulders up, exhale, relax it back down. I want you to have the palms facing forward, and I want you to use the bottom of the feet like suction cups and pull up on the mat, okay? So now as you're pulling up, I want you to ground through the heels and know that, like, you're firmly supported by the ground underneath you. The earth is here to fully support you. And so feel that, play with that. I like to take my toes and scrunch them like I'm trying to grab something underneath them, and then just relax into that. And then take a deep breath, squeeze the shoulders to the ears, allow that lymphatic fluid to cycle through the body, and then exhale. go ahead and give yourself a nice little willow tree here. So just shake it out. All right. Now we're going to start sun salutation A. So you want to inhale the arms up. And when you go up, one thing nobody explained to me, because I would just go up, you know, but I started to realize that it felt better if I came back and up to give my my rotator cuff here a full expansion. So just coming up here, allow the fingertips to touch, and then as you come down, remember, exhale, okay? So bring the arms up and exhale. We're gonna do that one more time and then we'll begin a flow, okay? Up and exhale. Now, when you start, you will start here. You're gonna inhale up and you're gonna exhale, forward fold. Now, as you exhale, make sure you are pulling the navel point up and back, and as you come down to touch, now you can touch the ground here, and I'm sorry because I usually keep my I know what I'm looking for. Hold that thought, you guys. I'm so sorry because I definitely want to do this for my people who are sorry about that. Blocks. I'm sorry. Because it's important for those that have blocks to know how to use them, okay? So, I'm going to go through this first without blocks, and then I'm going to mod it with blocks, just because it'll make for a cleaner understanding. So, you're going to start here. I'm sorry. Recenter yourself. My apologies. So, come back into your mountain pose. Breathe in. Exhale, pulling up. Take one more breath for me. Exhale. And then we're going to inhale to start. Inhaling the arms up. And we're going to exhale, forward fold. Now when you're here, make sure you are lifting all the way up through the upper diaphragm. I will teach you more about those locks in the Kundalini episode. But for now, you're going to inhale and come up halfway with a nice straight back. So that means bringing the hands to the knees and then keeping the back here nice and straight and like a nice L. Now, if you have very low blood pressure, I believe she said she had low blood pressure, you want to do this carefully, okay? Because it can make you lightheaded. Vinyasa can be fast, but the key thing with yoga is to listen to your body. So if your body says, hey, slow is smooth, the smooth is fast, then that's what it is. So after you pop up halfway, you're gonna exhale down. Now this is where I feel like Hatha's a little bit more interesting, because they tell you in Vinyasa to exhale the feet back. That does not work for me, okay? It's like it's missing too much of a step with the breath. So when I inhale up, come down, come up halfway, I exhale the palms down into a nice squat, and I inhale each foot back, okay? This is plank pose, very common, as you remember the planking trend. Now while you're here, most people forget that you need to engage the core. If you're not pulling up on this core, you are doing your back a disservice, and you will suffer back pain. Now chaturanga is probably every yogi's least favorite pose. However, it's necessary. So from this inhale that you took, you're going to exhale down slowly to the ground. Now when you get here, you're going to want to flip those feet, press the tops of the feet into the mat, and inhale into a cobra. I want you to tuck the toes. And I want you to use your core here as you lift your hips to the sky. Now, this is your first dog of the day. This downward facing dog. I want you to pedal that out. Take your dog for a walk. Okay? And that's just to help keep that circulation flowing in the legs. All right, so you've exhaled here. Inhale, look through the hands. Now you can walk or jump the hands and feet together. I exhale here. I add a little extra exhale here because when you are bent over, you get a fuller, more complete exhale. You inhale the arms back up and exhale down. Okay? Now let's go through that without me giving you so much explanation and watering that down to the point where you're like, okay, notes, 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 notes. So now you've gotten the notes on the thing. Now we're just gonna do the thing, okay? I know a lot of people do it the other way around. Not for me. My brain needs to know the details and then I wanna do the thing. So we're gonna do this my way because it's my life, I don't know. All right, so let's inhale up and exhale, forward fold. Now, if you cannot reach the floor, use your block. You can use it this way, you can use it this way, you can use it this way. The goal of the block is to bring the floor to you, okay? This is your friend and it will help you. Do not be embarrassed and shamed or anything or too proud to use this because you will be looking crazy with a cast on, okay? So if you don't have a block available, you can use a phone book, anything, or you can just go for the legs here, okay? You can also grab here. So let's go start, let me start that over, that flow over. So we'll inhale up and exhale, forward fold. Inhale, come up halfway, nice straight back. Exhale down. Inhale, step the legs back. Exhale, press down. Press the tops of the feet and inhale up. Go ahead and tuck the toes. Exhale the hips to the sky. And exhale down. All right. Walk or jump the hands and feet together. Inhaling the arms up and back down. All right. Let's do a nice clean flow for a last one. Then you'll have done 3 sun salutations today and you are the bomb. So let's inhale up and exhale, forward fold. Inhale, come up halfway and exhale down. Inhale, step those feet back. Exhale, press through. Touch the tops of the feet. Inhaling up. Tuck those toes. Bring those hips skywards. Exhale down. Now, walk and jump the hands and feet together. Inhale up and exhale down. You have done 3 sun salutations and you are the bomb for the day. King of the day, sun's king. So let's talk about a few other modifications in that sun salutation. Let's talk about the most commonly made mistake I see in a sun salutation. Downward facing dog. Downward facing dog, people hear it and they jump to it and they think they're like, boom, I'm in it. Boy, no. So I'm actually, let's see here. I want you, because I want to show this to you in a way that you can see exactly what I mean, okay? And I'm actually going to, I have on a sports bra because I want you to see my shoulders, all right? What I want you to take note of in downward facing dog is this area right here, okay? So when people do downward facing dog, the goal is in yoga, you want to keep this energetic channel open unless you're intentionally meaning to close it off. However, most often in downward facing dog, people have that channel closed off. I'm going to show you why. So if I tell someone, hey, downward facing dog, this is usually, matter of fact, let me put my hair up so that way you can see past this stuff. All right, this is what I see. You see that? You see how my shoulder blades are touching here? This energy cannot make it up past my throat chakra. It gets blocked right before my throat chakra. And I need that energy to flow because right here is where I have freedom of self-expression and I can speak my truth. The other problem is that you need to alleviate the burdens here that you carry, your internal and external burdens, and you can't flow energy here because you've closed it off. So let me show you how to fix that. Instead of doing this, take your elbows and rotate them inward, okay? So now, if you notice, that channel's nice and clear. My shoulder blades aren't touching. It's a matter of rotating the elbows. And then when you come into your plank, it's a whole lot cleaner. You drop down. Yes. So now that flow is so much smoother. So let's go ahead, let's try to do another round of sun salutations. And this time, I want you to notice your downward facing dog. And if you notice that you've blocked your channel, I want you to fix it this time, and I want you to finish flowing after that and tell me how it works. Now, instead of coming up after we do the downward facing dog, we're just gonna go back through, okay? So go ahead and come standing at the top of your mat. Again, I'm not gonna stand at the top because you can't see me. So inhale up and exhale forward. Inhale, come up halfway and exhale down. Inhale, step the feet back. Go ahead and press down through. Press the tops of the feet and come up. Now let's take notice. Tuck the toes. Make sure you're using the breath through the core part to bring the hips skyward. And now see if you're doing this. And if you are, fix it. All right? Once you've made that adjustment, I want you to come forward into plank. Press down in the chaturanga. And come back up. We're gonna go back into that downward facing dog. We're gonna cycle through this 2 more times, okay? Are you ready? Hips up. Check your dog. Check your downward dog. Come forward into plank. Press down. Press up. 1 more time, you got this. Tuck those toes. Downward facing dog. Push forward to plank. Exhale down. Push up. Tuck toes. Push the hips up. Walk or jump the hands and feet together. Inhaling up and down. All right? So that should really reshape your practice, and you will notice at first when you make that adjustment that you'll feel a little fatigue here in the shoulders, but it's because you're not used to working that muscle that way. So just be easy with it. Show it the same love and compassion that you would, a child or a friend, and remember that your body is simply retraining itself. Okay, all right. Now, I know Miss Nancy's on here, and then sis, I know you're on here too. You have any questions about a particular pose in Vinyasa that you may want a little clarification on, or how you can do something a little bit easier? And I'd be more than happy to show you why I've got my mat out. I'll give you a few minutes to. I feel like every time I'm on a live and I have a question, that by the time I type my question out, the person leading the live has already moved on. And I'm like, dang it, do I not type? And I type pretty fast, but it's not a computer. But Cobra, okay. All right, so I'm gonna walk you through Cobra and Baby Cobra. I'm gonna turn my mat back long ways. That little leap thing, okay, absolutely. So sis, a lot of that is core and arm strength. I'm not gonna lie to you. All right, so with Cobra, you can't flex up easily. Okay, so this is what I want you to do. One of the reasons that I love using dynamic yoga poses is because they help. So if you remember, Miss Nancy, when I was talking about getting into frog pose, how sometimes you want to gently get yourself there. Well, Cobra's kind of the same way. All right, so when it comes to dealing with Cobra, and I wish I had my wheel here, because wheels are great for that too. If you have one of those inversion wheels, those are the bomb.com. They're great for that because you can slowly roll it. Now, when you're dealing with Cobra, as you recall, so I'm gonna push down through and you're here, okay? So we're gonna start from here. What I want you to start to do is begin to slowly peel yourself and push through. I want you to do this, okay? Now, if you notice my feet and toes, I'm trying to walk up a little bit. You just start to slowly rock this. Now, it seems weird because you're wanting to push up and flex, but until you get the hang of this part, it makes it a little bit harder for the transition. And when it comes to Vinyasa Yoga, Vinyasa is all about the smoothness of the transition. Now, as far as the actual back flexion, I want you to work on cat-cow. So that's placing the knees hip distance apart, staggering the wrists underneath the shoulders, inhaling up, arching the back, exhaling, rounding out. Inhaling up, exhaling, rounding out. So let's do a couple of those. Inhale up and exhale down. Inhale up and exhale down. And so after a couple of these, now if you're in Kundalini Yoga, you do this every day, it's a warm-up. But this is how you keep that spine supple. So let's talk about the flexibility of the spine for just a second. The spine is meant to move in 6 directions every day. Now, when you look at how old you are, yogis don't look at your chronological age. And to be honest, doctors don't as much either. They're looking at your physical age, and that comes from the health of your spine and the flexibility of your spine. Now, the 6 directions your spine moves every day are forward, backwards, twist, twist, side, side. So if every day when you wake up, you do nothing more than this, this, and those cat-cows, you will see the flexibility of your spine improve like literally within weeks. And it's just 5-minute stretching. Literally those 3 stretches every day will keep you healthier and more limber than, most things that you do throughout the day. You'll notice that you feel a whole lot better. Your posture will come into better alignment. And then that core strength that we were talking about for me to float up, that comes from that as well. Because what happens is we start using our back to compensate for the core. Okay, and when the back compensates for the core, we lose that strength there, and it causes us back problems because now we're hunched over like this. All right, make it a point to a few times a day, inhale and roll the shoulders back and let them melt down your spine like I showed you. You can also come here into, almost said rock pose again, blessed it be, hero's pose, and allow that to come back here. All right. So you can allow the arms to come back and float here. Now this will also help you with that full arch because you're gonna open this up here. Now, when you're doing Cobra, if you're trying to open up this part of your chest more, okay? Because we were slowly working our way up the spine on how to open that up. When you want to open this up more, I suggest camel pose. Now, if you struggle with camel pose, because a lot of people do, and if you struggle getting into Cobra, I'm going to assume camel pose is a little bit difficult for you, but it may not be. So I encourage people to take this block and put it under your tushy, okay? So when you reach back, because in camel pose, if you're not familiar with camel pose looks like this, and you're grabbing the heels. But everybody can't do that. That's not a easily accessible pose. I recommend getting a block and coming back here. Actually, getting 2 blocks would be better. I just only took 1 out of the bag, okay? So now I've showed you how to get more flexible here to pull up from the mat and make the transition smooth. More flexibility here through the cat-cow, and then more flexibility here through the camel pose. And then over time, you'll notice that Cobra flows smoother. And I like to look at it as a glide. That's why that one that I was showing you about the transition is just, to me, is important because it's something about the glide, allowing the shoulders to pull through, bringing the chest through the shoulders that makes that curve come up into such a beautiful flex. So since I do actually have bigger blocks, those are my teaching blocks that are in my bag for when I teach classes. So if you are not familiar with me, if you never met me in real life, I teach private yoga sessions. I go to your home, I can meet you at the park. We go to all different kinds of really awesome locations and enjoy yoga outside in nature. I also teach private sessions with a few of your closest homegirls. Now I do this on site, on location, which is why I have the blocks, prompted this conversation. And I also do that virtually. So you do have options there. I've done birthday parties with like the smaller, they wake up and they want to do yoga for their birthday. That's awesome. And so I've done a few different things, community projects and things of the such, but that is why I have those blocks. But yes, and since you can always put 2 blocks together, or you can just find something that is, thicker. Like, I'm not gonna lie. Well, no, that book isn't that big. I was gonna say the Radiant Sutras is kind of big. So if you've never read the Radiant Sutras. And then what else did you ask me? I'm wanting to come over here so I can read this because, so she asked about Cobra. And then the little leap thing. Okay, so let me explain the little leap thing, okay? Now the little leap thing, I'm gonna teach you how to do it anyway. I know you're talking about you fat, you can't do that. But first of all, go big girl, what you gonna do? This is my sister, y'all. I'm allowed to tease her all today. She cracks me up. And so let's see here. Now the floaty thing, I am not amazing at the full float. I will be honest, okay? I'm still working on getting that full float, but that comes from this strength here, okay? This I work on with pelvic floor lifts, or practicing my root lock, as they call it in Kundalini Yoga, the Mood Band, and that allows you to keep control. Remember how we were talking about the strength of the core is what helps alleviate the pressures on the back. It lets the back do its job instead of having to do its job and the core's job. Also, it's about being able to put your hands up. Now, here's the thing. I'm not a super flexible yogi, but I'm a strong yogi, okay? I'm not going to be able to do a full compass pose, but I can crow like a beast. So, when you are coming here and you, hold on, let me get back into where I'm at. It's crazy because I literally have to do this to myself. All right, so when you're here from down facing dog, all right, you actually shift your elbows. That's another key of making sure that your shoulders are in correct alignment, is that it makes it hard to jump through. So you want to check that, and then you want to kind of push up, all right? Now, if you are trying to work up to this, I recommend doing you can find a wall and doing kick-ups. Okay, it's just like you would prepare yourself for handstand, all right? So you're gonna do little kick-ups and you're gonna slowly let yourself come through. Now, some people are really good and they can actually bring themselves straight through, legs straight out. More power to you. I'm still working on it. I ain't there yet. And so it really is lifting that core and that's the other part of being able to exhale fully. You can't fully compress until you can fully exhale. And like I said, I will teach you that more in the Kundalini episode, because you'll be able to actively learn the different locks, the different body locks. And to me, those are like the key to pumping things through with yoga. So one of the things with Vinyasa, and I want to talk about this right quick, is that Vinyasa is amazing for doing what our body does naturally, but a whole lot faster, okay? And that's the thing about yoga. It's like I call it a science. It really is a technology, because it takes our bodily processes and it speeds up the process for us. Now, when it comes to the lymphatic fluid, okay? The lymphatic fluid within the system, it flows like the circulatory system, okay? The difference is that in the circulatory system, you have valves, okay, that push the blood. So when the blood comes down to your feet, the valves shoot it back up, okay? The circulation occurs easily. That is not so with your lymphatic fluid. Yes, working on your lower belly is good. Just do Kegels, baby. Just do Kegels, and it's like if you sit there and work on it more, you'll notice you start to tone and firm the abs, because then you slowly pull that up just a little bit higher and a little bit higher and a little bit higher, and now, you be slim thick with your cute self. So, but Vinyasa Yoga, when you do that simple sun salutation, the reason that sun salutation is so, dare I say, legendary, because it really is truly legendary. No matter what type of yogi you are, even if you've only heard of yoga once, 9 out of 10 what you know is the sun salutation. And the reason it is so iconic is because it takes that lymphatic fluid and it flows it back up through the body. So after everything drains, it can't get filtered back out through the liver, and if it makes it past the liver, like the stuff down here, we can't get that back up. It's really hard. You have to move your body. When you do these sun salutations, it squeezes on the muscles. It squeezes on the lymphatic drainage system. And so it allows that lymphatic system to go. It sends the fluid right back up, so it can get back to the liver, back to the kidneys, and help filter the things out of your bloodstream. That is what makes Vinyasa Yoga so amazing, and the sun salutation, I mean, just legendary in the world of natural holistic movement healing. Okay. And so again, I really appreciate you all for tuning in today. I'm glad I made it through my little ear. But Vinyasa Yoga has definitely been one of my favorites, and all of those benefits are definitely reasons to just, give it a try. Again, if you're unfamiliar with yoga practices, or you just want to make sure that you're getting those little small nuances right, I would suggest going to Hatha Yoga and checking out Hatha Yoga and learning the small details. Vinyasa is great for learning that flow, but for learning to, respect the technique, you're going to need to go to Hatha Yoga for that. I'm sorry, I have a music brain. I always tell people there's like a million things going through my mind, and at least one of them is a song. And so respect the technique was going through my mind at that moment. And so yes, respect the technique. Hatha will teach you the technique, but Vinyasa will allow you to flow through. I recommend Vinyasa for your personal practice. Vinyasa is perfect for you because you're listening to your own breath and you're doing what it tells you. You're like, oh, you start to breathe this way and you're like, oh, that shoulder's tight. Let me go ahead and bring this arm over just a little bit more. You know what? Maybe a little bit more. You know what? Maybe if I go back this way. Oh yeah, that's the spot. That's Vinyasa. Vinyasa flows. The reason I earned the nickname the River Solstice is because I flow. And there's always a song in my head. Yeah. So, yes, there's always a song in my head. There's a song in my breath. And it just flows, and I allow it to guide me. Okay, so you've got your basic sun salutations. We went over a few poses. Also, the warriors are fantastic. You know what? I've still got time. Let me run you through each of the warriors right quick. What do you think? You guys want to do some warrior tighten up just to learn the different warriors? Because there's warrior 1, 2, 3, reclined warrior, warrior 4, if you know what you're talking about. So, yeah, let me run you through some warriors right quick, because there's a little bit of alignment for that too. But your warriors, I'm going to just show you what each warrior is, and that way you kind of know. So your warrior 1 is going to be here. All right, that way you know. Warrior 2 is here. All right. Warrior 3 is here. Reclined warrior is here. All right. Warrior 4, because you'll have a yoga teacher try to be funny, because all warriors must take a rest, as should I. So thank you for joining me. I'll see you all next week. Next week, let's go ahead and jump into Kundalini Yoga. That's what we'll do next week. So next week is Kundalini Yoga, and we'll bust through a few of those things, understanding more of how Kundalini Yoga works. We'll discuss the bandhas, which are the body locks. We'll also discuss a few breaths and breathing techniques. I'll also teach you Ujjayi breath next week, which is actually essential to the Vinyasa practice we just did. Hi, how are you? And so the Vinyasa practice, people typically do what's called victory breath or Ujjayi breath, but we'll learn that next week during Kundalini, because Kundalini is more breath work and mantra and mudra. So tune in next week, same time, 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, and I look forward to doing the things with you guys then. Be well, live well, do well.